Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm back. I had a week off. I decided to. My brain was a bit scrambled. We went away and we did lots of cool things for the summer holidays. We did Legoland and Warwick Castle, and took the little one out just to spend some quality family time. But today I'm joined with Jo Cunningham, who we just chatted just before we hit record. We did this interview in August 2019. And I listened back to that interview just to get some tips on, what was at the festival, the folk festival a couple of years ago. And it was after a night shift. I wandered onto a field at the West Mid Showground. I kept calling it the Shrewsbury Showground. I sounded drunk. Because I was just so tired. But I'm glad we can do this properly today. Jo, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. 2019, such a distant memory now, right?
It seems like a different lifetime. A lot has happened since then, I have to say. But yeah, really looking forward to getting back and doing it all again in a week's time.
When you're planning something like now in what is, I don't like using the word the COVID era, but I guess that's what we have to call it now, is the COVID era. Can you use 2019 as a template, or is it a case of, right, we need to throw that out, we need to do things COVID safe? What goes into
well, that basically has consumed our lives for sort of the last 18 months, basically. I mean, obviously it became obvious early on last year that there was no way we were going to be able to have a physical festival, because obviously an event the size of ours, you have to plan so much so far in advance. So you have to book your stages, you have to book, all your infrastructure and your artists and your foreign artists and all that kind of stuff. You have to book it so far in advance. So as I say, it became obvious early on last year that we weren't going to be able to do it. And we held a very successful virtual festival, which was great as a bit of a placeholder for, people who would usually have been with us on August bank holiday weekend. But as great as it was, and it was really great, nothing beats being back in those fields and back together. So obviously we were absolutely determined that if at all costs we could have a festival this year, we would. We're a very determined bunch. There are other big festivals in our calendar and in the festival world, the folk festival world, who haven't gone ahead this year, for example, like Cambridge, WOMAD, Cropredy. So we are one of the very few sort of big folk festivals that is actually going ahead, and we're really proud of that. But we have just, we've been so determined to make it possibly happen if we can. So yeah, I mean, we've got more than 20 years history of organising the festival. So we've got a pretty decent blueprint, but there are things that we had to look at, for example, like, when we book our stages, for example, in January or February, we had no idea what COVID restrictions might be in August. We were hoping it would be like this and we wouldn't have any, but you couldn't run the risk of booking one of the normal big marquees that we have, where everybody is under one roof, because what would happen if there were COVID restrictions and you couldn't have people sitting within 1 metre or 2 metres of each other? So, we had people drawing up, computer-based models. And, if we had a marquee this size and we have social distancing, how many people could we get in it? So we decided sort of fairly early on, I think in about March, that we would be having outdoor stages, even if, we're in the situation that we are in now, where there's no social distancing, you don't have to wear a mask, you can go around and hug people. But we had to make a decision. If we wanted the festival to happen, how could we ensure it could happen? So the biggest thing that people will notice this weekend will be that we have open air stages. We have one less main stage than normal. Normally we have 3 big stages. We've only got 2 this year. And they are the open air stages. So the kind of thing you see at Glastonbury. And they're one of them is in a slightly different location. Normally it's in the centre of the site, and it's actually in a top field at the very end. So we've literally got the 2 big stages will be bookending the site. And they'll be facing into the site, because we've had a sound expert who has looked at the best way to ensure that, you know, there's minimal disruption for residents. So in answer to your original question about 3 hours ago, yes, there has been a lot of COVID related planning going on. It has been all consuming for the last 18 months, but I really hope that we've managed to create something this weekend that will be what people know and love about Shrewsbury and what creates that amazing atmosphere, but is a safe environment for them to be in.
I think Shrewsbury's been really lucky, actually, because like the festival schedule. I mean, I get press releases through all the time and emails, and it's one event, and there's another event, and another event, another event, and the Shrewsbury Biscuit wants to be a part of all these things, and I'm kind of like, I don't have enough room in my calendar. That's literally what it's like at the moment. So, you're saying there's festivals been cancelled all across the UK, but I think Shrewsbury's like kind of lucky in a way.
Shrewsbury is festival central, absolutely. I mean, you know, I think that's one of the reasons the university chose to do their sort of festival degree in Shrewsbury, because, you know, we have so many amazing festivals ongoing, you know, our festival, cartoon festival, food festival, you know, we are festival central.
Yeah, and we went to we were at the Mile of Smiles. We set up a studio there, and we got lots of great interviews and stuff. But when it came to the main stage and where people were crowded around, I feel like people have got it sort of inbuilt into people to sort of socially distance now. That people aren't cramming in as much as they would originally. So even though you're saying, "Oh, there's no social distance, we don't have to do that," I think people are kind of like, "No, actually, I prefer to." You know, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all live our lives very differently, you know, now to how we did a couple of years ago. You know, we offered people the opportunity to roll over their tickets when we first announced that we'd be having open air stages. And also because we know that not everybody is particularly comfortable in, you know, being back in the real world. And, you know, I think that is one of the advantages that we have got as a festival this year with the open air stages. You know, people can bring their picnic blankets and their chairs, they can set up their little area, and they don't, you know, they aren't necessarily going to be standing in a mosh pit, rubbing shoulders with, you know, 5 different people. You know, that just wouldn't be safe this year. So yeah, we're pretty, you know, certain that we've got it. We've put together the infrastructure that will keep people as safe as they want to be. I mean, you know, all the extra stuff we've done. So additional hand sanitizing stations around the site. We're asking everybody who's coming to take a lateral flow test. You know, our audience is a pretty honest bunch. So, you know, we're not asking for evidence to see that, but obviously if they are coming and they've taken a lateral flow test and turn out to be positive, please don't come. And they will get a refund. But yeah, I think we, you know, because we really want to be able to capture the magic of Shrewsbury. It's really hard to describe to people who've not been to the festival and experienced it, kind of what the atmosphere is like. But it is kind of all the things that come together. So the whole infrastructure that we build, our volunteers, all the people who go, we just create this really magical atmosphere. And I'm hoping, and I'm pretty certain that will still be there, despite the actual physical changes to the festival this year.
We're going to be there, the Shrewsbury Biscuit. We're going to bring some microphones. I'm going to try and capture some of that environment and see so we can capture it in a bottle and send it out to sea, so people can sort of get a sample of that. And we'll make some vlogs and stuff as well. It's going to be really fun because, you know, when it comes to folk music, it offers so much. You can have beautiful sounding angel-like voices, or you can have crazy violins and lots of energy and, you know, lots of dancing, and it kind of offers that a real positive energy, you know.
I mean, folk music is such a broad church, and I think you know, we would never ever drop the word folk from our title, because that is who we are and that is what we do. But people think, folk music's not for me, you know, it's all finger in your ear, diddly diddly dee, and that is so far from the truth. But you know, the festival in itself is about a lot more than the music. The music is obviously amazing. We have, you know, everything from, you know, I mean, you've just talked about, you know, crashing bloody violins and this, that, and the other. I mean, like the Afro Celt sound system, who are on Monday, closing the main stage on Monday, have to be seen to be believed. They are awesome. But then, you know, you've got down to kind of, you know, a couple of duos with, you know, one person and a violin. So it has, you know, such a broad church of stuff to offer. But the festival itself is just about so much more than the music. You know, there's so many, the family activities, the workshop. I mean, obviously I never get to see any because I'm running around like a headless chicken. But, you know, craft fair, food village. But it's about that thing of, you know, being in one place with your friends and your family. You know, the whole kind of relaxing vibe. There's a bit of music going on over there. You've got a cocktail in your hand or a pint of beer, and it's just chill and relax. So I think a lot of people in Shrewsbury, because it's kind of tucked away down that sort of site at the Westmid Showground, which is a brilliant site for us. It's absolutely fantastic. And the team there, you know, worked really hard to get the site looking awesome for us. But because it's kind of like not in the centre of town and people can't sort of walk past it and see it, they don't actually realise how huge it is. And I think the amount of people who've come up to me over the years and just went, I didn't realise. I'm not entirely sure what they're expecting. I'm not whether they're expecting, like, you know, one of those big white marquees and a few hay bales. But, you know, then they come down and they see like a stage you would see at Glastonbury, and that whole kind of vibe and flags and tents and people, and they're just like, oh my god, this, I didn't realize what it was. I didn't realize it was so big.
But this is what happens when, I mean, like, I've got a huge problem with music segregation from like your charts, the stuff you play on the radios, you know, when it, like, obviously I'm an 80s kid. I grew up for the 90s, and music always seemed to be in one place, right? You listen to the radio, you'd listen to, I don't know, there'd be a little bit of Linkin Park, and there would be a bit of Britney Spears and a bit of Will Smith, whatever it is that was on there. If a bit of folk music was incorporated into your, you know, normal radio, and people could hear it and appreciate it, I think maybe it'd have a bit more, people would be more understanding as to actually what it is, you know?
Yeah, but again, you know, that is the, people think, oh, you know, there's a folk show on BBC Radio 2, which is fabulous, and does, you know, in a short hour try and showcase a little bit about what folk music is. But there's stuff that you would hear on mainstream radio that would be perfectly at home at the festival. This is what I mean. You know, you can literally, in the space of a few hours at the festival, go from seeing something really, really lively to just one person and a guitar. So, you know, I kind of always think, you know, people should perhaps come along for the day, see what it's about. I think you'll be suitably impressed and surprised. And then, you know, next year, come along for the weekend. We have so many people who live locally, literally, like in the nearest possible street you could get to the showground, and camp for the weekend, because it's all about that festival experience. It's not just about, you know, a day out and going out. There obviously is a great day out, but it is that whole kind of, you know, being with your mates, being with your friends, relaxing. And God, do we all need that after the last 18 months? You know, the thought of sitting with my friends in, you know, a field, listening to some music with, you know, a cold glass of wine in my hand just fills me full of joy. It's
it really is. It's so rewarding after such a long time. And the first big event we covered post-COVID was the Battle of Shrewsbury a couple of weeks ago, but Battlefield there. And you know, a lot of what we heard was, I've waited so long for this, you know, the relief in people being able to go out and do what they enjoy, you know, and I think it's something to be said about, you know, being stuck inside and then all of a sudden being able to go out there and have a bit of fun. And now, like, when it comes to the music itself, I have been doing a bit of research, but listening to a lot of the acts, and one of my favorite was Kate Rusby, who I'd never heard of before, but because of your website, I have now. And there's one of the, I don't know who wrote the write-up on the website, but there's one quote here. Kate's soulful vocals resonate with the wistful beauty of an earthbound angel. I thought that was an amazing quote. I listened to her voice and I was like, I literally wrote, "This is correct." At the end of that quote.
she's often referred to, I think, and if I get this right, as the Barnsley Nightingale, I think, because she's from Barnsley. She's a good Yorkshire lass. She's very down to earth, but she does have this angelic voice, and a lot of people, mainstream people who, well, I'm not a folkie, I don't listen to folk music, will know her stuff because she gets played on Radio 2 and stuff like that quite a lot. She did she sang, and I've got to get this, I don't know if I'm going to get the show right, but she sang the theme tune for a BBC One comedy show with Dawn French.
Wow.
I can't think, was it called Jam in Jerusalem or something like that? So a lot of people will know her voice, and her voice is one of those voices that when you hear it, you know it's Kate Rusby. It can't possibly be anybody else. It is Kate Rusby. And she's wonderful. She's really wonderful. And our audiences absolutely love her. And she's one of those that always tops the who do you want to see back? And it's always Kate. And justifiably so.
I'm sure she loves it. I'm sure she, really appreciates because I've been speaking to a lot of musicians, artists and things about what they did to sort of survive COVID and get through that. And a lot of artists and creators struggled. Some people like, I got, I need that. I need the money from the festivals and the album sales and things, but also like that feedback from the audience is very important. So like people not being able to go out and perform is,
if that is your drug, I guess, and all of a sudden it gets taken away from you. Kate, for example, was one of those who, probably could have sat back and said, oh, you know what, I'm just going to take 18 months off. But she actually did an album called, I'm probably going to get the name wrong, but it was an album of covers. So amazing stuff like Manic Monday by the Bangles.
I heard that.
It was wonderful. So a lot of them, they're so resourceful. And that was another major driver for us in terms of wanting to do the festival, because this is the lifeblood for a lot of people. They want to perform, they need to perform to pay their mortgages and their bills. And we wanted to be able to put it on for them, as well as our visitors.
When it comes to this year's festival, is it a case of we need to put something big together to bring people back, or is it a case of, in the words of the raconteurs, steady as she goes? Let's just see how it goes.
Steady as she goes. That's not in our vocab. Not in our vocab at all. So we've got quite a reputation that's been developed over the years for Americana, so a lot of the kind of music that you'll find in North America and Canada, as well as, a healthy dose of world music, and then some, of your traditional and more contemporary folk. That's kind of the four main tranches of what we do. Unfortunately, one of the things COVID revealed to us earlier this year is that we were really going to struggle with our international artists. So often we bring in a lot of artists from North America and Canada, various other places in Europe. So we had to make a decision, and we made that decision in about May, that there was no way we were going to be able to guarantee we could have those people, which is really sad. But we've invited them all to come next year. So, for example, Carlos Nunez, who is the most awesome Galician piper you've ever seen. He's just incredible. Our audiences have been asking for him for years, and we have tried to get him for years, and we finally got him, only for COVID to, we're hoping, exactly. So COVID had other ideas. So hopefully he's going to come next year. So we decided in May that we were going to have to go for a British-based lineup, which obviously meant we could invite people like Kate, which was wonderful. We have actually, though, been lucky enough to get some world musicians who are based in the UK. So obviously no travel element going on there. So, for example, we've got Sekou Kita, who is very well known to people who've been to the festival before, who's an amazing kora player. And then we've got a woman who's coming for the first time called Sona Jabate, who is just awesome. And then, bands like the Afro Celt Sound System, which is made up of so many different elements. And then we've got obviously, some more mainstream bands that, people will know, like Lindisfarne, which is great. So that's the first time we've got them at the festival. So it's been a real opportunity for us to kind of look at the best of British and, bring those people to the festival. But there is still a good old dose of some British-based Americana, and we have actually got one American band, which, because lucky for us, they live in Wales. So
Nice.
we have got them coming, called Truck Stop Honeymoon, who actually appeared at our virtual festival last year, who are just incredible. So they're definitely worth looking out for.
I'm writing the names down because I have another network called USUK, USUK, and we talk about the differences between US and UK culture. I like, doesn't me plugging on my stuff, but it all round up. Radio show called Naughty Talk, and one of my fans that listens every week is Ryan Berger, and we chat during Discord whilst the show's going on. He's like, "Oh, what's this song? This terrible? Why are you playing this?" But he's like an old man in the group. I'm like, "Okay, so I will give you 4 songs every week, Ryan. You send me 4 songs, I'll play them. I'll give you your own segment of the show. Crack on. We'll do it this way." And he give me country music, American country music. I think country music could be considered as folk music in this country, and I've started listening to a bit of it, and I'm kind of like, it's not too bad, actually. It's not too bad at all. So
we do, yeah. I mean, country music is certainly in the UK coming into its own. They have a big London-based festival called C2C, which has got a lot of country, but there's definitely some, element of crossover with folk music. We had a brilliant band in 2019 called the Cajun Country Revival, who were real kind of like, that Louisiana type deep South music, which they were just fabulous. So yeah, there is definitely crossover. My daughter is a massive country fan, actually. So we listen to quite a bit of country at home as well.
It's taken my fancy a little bit. Like originally I was kind of like, but then there are certain aspects to country music that I feel like are really important. The sort of the soul, the stories that they tell, and that's very similar to folk music. Obviously,
yeah, very very similar. Storytelling is huge in folk music. It normally involves an illicit relationship, murder, and various other things. So yeah, there's some very very dark folk songs. Very dark folk songs when you actually listen to the words. But yeah, they're definitely, the similarities between that and country music in terms of telling that story.
Yeah, it really is important. And I mean my family's in Ireland, and my dad, my brothers and stuff, they're in Ireland, and we used to listen to a lot of Whiskey in the Jar and stuff. Genuinely, it's just what was always on in the car, and so there was that in my blood, in my DNA. So
yeah, we have some amazing Celtic music, actually, and Irish bands and Welsh bands. So this year we've got Dervish on Friday night, who are just incredible, and then we've also got a couple of really good Welsh bands called Callan and Penderfig. I think I pronounced that right. But they're fabulous. They're young.
I was listening to Penderfig,
and they are loud, and they're great. I mean, the energy from those bands is just awesome.
I was listening to Sheelanigig.
Sheelanigig, yes.
They're fun
too. They get the party started. They really do. Yeah. We had a lot of dancing. Your legs will be tired by the end of the weekend. All that walking, all that dancing.
This was a great segue to my next question. I was just been looking at the map, and it's huge. The arena is huge, especially if you're camping. The arena is massive. How many miles do you reckon you walk as an organizer?
So I think I do something like about 30,000 steps a day.
Crazy.
And that's over about 7 or 8 days, because obviously the sort of set up and take down, and I am contemplating getting a bike to cycle around, but we have little buggies and stuff to cart things around, so it's not all bad. But your legs by the end of it are certainly know you've been doing a lot of walking.
We're starting to venture out into festivals and stuff. That's what we wanted to do with the Shrewsbury Biscuit. We wanted to sort of showcase what Shrewsbury can do, And so my primary role is to observe and report, So when I'm at Mile of Smiles, for example, right? So I was at Mile of Smiles a few weeks ago, and I'm watching Beth Eve. She's in town, she's rushing around. I'm like, "Hi, Beth, how's it going? Quick couple of conversation, then she's like, oh, phone's ringing, and she's off again. Right, she's off. She's there. She did when she was at the West Mid Showground for the driving festival. She's on a Segway up and down the field. She didn't stop. But then I noticed at Mile of Smiles where she just stopped and looked. And you could see her just smile and sort of take it in, like, yeah, it's working. I made it. Do you have those moments of like, it's working? I'm so happy.
Yeah, I mean, we are all, as you can imagine, in a high state of stress at the moment because there's a lot that we've got to do. There's a lot that you can't do until a certain point, and the festival build is starting, and we've got stages in different places and all that kind of thing. And then obviously you kind of have your first couple of days of the festival where, if you've forgotten to do anything or this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened. And then, obviously we've got the additional issue this year with COVID. What happens if a band member gets COVID and we have to replace them and all that kind of stuff. So normally by about Sunday is the point where you kind of get to going, oh yeah, this is really good. Mm-hmm. And you've just started to relax, and then it's all over and it's packing up and it's like, okay, what worked this year? And it is, I think people think being a festival organizer is it's a really cool job. It is relentless. It is very, very hard work. I mean, it's great. Ultimately, all you want out of it is somebody to come to your festival and go, oh my God, wow, that was amazing. That was the best weekend of my life. And all that, those hours of meetings that you had in February about what kind of hand sanitizer to use, or should we do that, or should we do that, or it just makes it all worthwhile, really. And I think that's why we're literally sort of like swans at the moment. So we're going along, everything's really cool, and then underneath the surface doing 1,001 different things, but we're doing that so hopefully people come and have this amazing experience, and that's what it's all about. And sometimes for me, as I'm sort of dashing from one place to another, you just kind of, you look and you hear the music, and there'll be, as I said earlier, there'll be a group of people sitting over there on the grass, chatting with friends and a coffee. There'll be a bit of music going on over there. There'll be a yoga workshop over there. There'll be kids playing in the, in the circus arena and stuff. And you just go, this is it. And I think that will be an amazing moment at some point on Friday or Saturday where you're just like, yes, we did it. Screw you, COVID, we've done it.
I love that. Yeah, the defiance in you is great. The important thing is feedback, obviously. Like, have you been paying attention to a lot of the comments and things on Facebook? Is it really important to kind of build a picture of this event before it happens?
I think it's, we are aware of the weight of expectation from people. I mean, the one thing about our festival goers is we have a very, very loyal fan base. So we have a lot of people who come back year in and year out, and they've been coming for years, and they've brought a couple of friends, and then those couple of friends brought a couple of friends, and then a couple of friends brought a couple of friends, and they might go away and come back, and the kids grow up, and then they leave home, and then the kids come with their own kids and all that kind of stuff. But they are so willing and want to have such a good weekend, and they know that we are doing everything we possibly can to make it a good weekend for them. The support and goodwill from people has been amazing, because they've missed this as much as we have. For some people, this festival weekend is the highlight of their year. It's their annual holiday. It's the time they meet up with those friends. It's that one weekend they spent with all their old friends from uni or something like that. And it's a real, date in their calendar. Obviously everybody's festival experience is different. We'll get feedback that we're going, oh my God, you had the best festival toilets I've ever seen. And then somebody will be going, I went into a toilet at 12 o'clock on Saturday and there was no toilet roll, and that's appalling. But everybody has a different, everybody has, but the general strength of feeling and love for the festival is incredible. And we obviously really welcome feedback, like whatever that might be. But yeah, it's I think the overwhelming feeling is one of goodwill really at the moment. You know, we have worked our little socks off, quite frankly, to get the festival to a point where we are offering what we would normally offer. And, you know, we set ourselves really high standards. You know, we don't just want to, you know, bung a stage up and put a few bands on and hope it all works out okay. You know, we've worked really hard over the last 20 odd years to build a successful reputation with an international reputation. And this is not just a reputation amongst festival goers, it's amongst bands. They want to perform at our festival. You know, people want to be on that stage. They want to be on our lineup. And, you know, we're not going to let one missed year change all of that. You know, we intend it to be as great as it would ever be, albeit slightly different this year.
Amazing. Yeah, and you know, I concur absolutely. And you know, I was talking about the livelihood of the stage hire people, the roadies, the people that come and it's their job. You know, if there's no festivals, they don't get paid. You know, and that's one of the sectors that wasn't looked after during COVID.
Well,
so
I mean, there is still there is an insurance scheme coming in for festivals, but unhelpfully for us, it begins on September the 1st. You know, we were lucky enough to get some grants from the government to keep us going between festivals, but you know, that obviously has to pay people who work for the festival. You know, we have costs to keep going. We couldn't just sit back and not do anything and then suddenly put together a festival in 2 weeks. We had to be organising things, booking things, paying for things, paying deposits. So that is where that money has gone. Huge gamble. Yeah, but you know, there are marquee companies, caterers, crafters, I don't know, toilet hire people. A lot of people that we've dealt with have gone out of business because of this. So that's yet another reason for us to make sure that we could put on a festival this year and, you know, give that work to people who need it.
And you know, I witnessed this kind of goodwill you're talking about just yesterday. Actually, I went to pick up my kid. He'd been to like a summer camp activities thing with Shrewsbury Town, the community. So I went to the stadium anyway to pick him up, and there's this huge wall thing with loads of people's names on. And one of my friends walked past. He's like, "I'm on there." And I was like, "Are you really? Why?" He's like, "I'm a season ticket holder, and I didn't ask for a refund during the COVID era, so they can keep." I was like, "So you just gave them your money?" And he's like, "Yeah." And you know, I was blown away. I was like, "So I mean, season tickets for football aren't cheap, you know what I mean?" So people's just gone, "Yeah, you can keep my money," and that's goodwill. That's somebody saying to something that they love, "I want you to survive," you know, and that's beautiful. It really is.
You know, having obviously when we said we weren't having a festival in 2019, we offered people the opportunity to have a refund or to have a you know, to roll over their tickets till 2021, and you know, we were overwhelmed by the amount of people who held onto their tickets, and that's such a, you know, shows so much faith in us, but also then the amount of people who've bought tickets for this year believing it will happen, and you know, that's another thing that has sort of kept us going. You know, there have been some really dark moments. I'm not, you know, being overly dramatic. But you know, this festival costs hundreds of thousands of pounds to put on, and that's a big financial risk to say, yes, we're going to do it. Yes, we're going to do it without an insurance. And that is why so many festivals aren't happening this year. But you know, we were just so determined for all the reasons I've talked about in the last, you know, few minutes to do it. We've had to have some pretty strong nerves. But you know, we can see the end is in sight, and we're so close now.
I bloody hope so. I hope so. I really do. It's been a lot. Last time I spoke to you in 2019, you pretty much sold out tickets. It was one of the, you know, you said it always sells out pretty quickly. Has COVID affected the ticket sales this year?
Well, it's all been a bit weird because obviously we had all the tickets. When we postponed in April last year, 2020, we were at that point in our ticket cycle. So I think we'd sold over half of our tickets by that point last year. So they all got rolled over to this year. And then there's been obviously a lull where people are waiting to see is the festival going to happen? What's happening with the festival? But definitely, you know, we've seen a massive surge, and we are actually really close to what we would normally sell. Really, really close. Obviously, we're not going to talk about that publicly, but we are not that far away from where we normally are, which is amazing. It's absolutely
really
amazing. Good. Considering we've had a lot of people who've sort of said, oh, I'm really not comfortable about coming this year, or I don't want an open air stage. So they've rolled over their tickets. So we've already got tickets that are sold for next year, if that makes sense. But yeah, we will have some day tickets and some weekend tickets. The one thing I would say is that the availability on our website. So if you go on shrewsburyfolkfestival.co.uk and then click on the ticket link, that will take you to our ticket page, and that is always live. So it's live information there. So it says, if there are 3 Friday tickets, you'll be able to book 3 Friday tickets. If there are, if there are no weekend tickets left, you won't be able to book a weekend ticket. Okay. So yeah. And the other thing is, of course, amazingly, the weather is supposed to look really nice.
I saw your post today.
Yeah. A nice weather combined with a bank holiday weekend, might entice a few more Shrewsbury folk to come and see what we're about.
I'm really excited to come, because I couldn't come last time. I'm really excited to come and see this for the first time, because I do get really emotional at things like this. When I went to the Battle of Shrewsbury, I was like, oh my God, this is actually really, really nice, So when I come to the folk festival, I'll be making the absolute most of it. And listeners, you listen to this now on the Monday. We've recorded this quickly and got it out quickly for the Monday, because it is this weekend coming up. You've got a few days to go and get your tickets left, and we will be there. Obviously, there'll be much more exciting things to see than the Shrewsbury Biscuit there. Of course, this is the folk festival. Loads of amazing things going on. But if you do want an interview and you want to talk about your experiences, look for the guy in the Shrewsbury Biscuit t-shirt. I usually wear like a red shirt as well. So just look up for me, and we'll get an interview, because that's what we're here to do. I want to speak to some of the artists. I want to speak to some people that are at the festival, and if they're enjoying it. And I will probably try and chase you down with a microphone too, Jo. So
good luck with that. Good luck with that. If you can find me.
Stop that woman! Right, okay. What I want you to do, Jo, is anybody that's listening to this, that's kind of on the fence, listening to this podcast and oh, should I, shan't I? I want you to try and sell the festival, try and get people to buy tickets. So tell people why they should.
It is, without a doubt, something that you will be amazed by. Amazing production values, amazing music, just an amazing site, so much to do for kids. There's a whole kids festival, there's a youth festival, there's workshops, there's a whole craft village, food village. Come and hop aboard the cocktail bus. If you've never been on a double-decker cocktail bus, now's your chance. Real ale coming out of your ears, literally. It is just the friendliest, nicest place to be on the bank holiday weekend. And if the sun is shining, there won't be anywhere better to be.
I can't wait. Listeners, I hope we've I not that you need convincing. This festival's huge. People really do adore this festival. So I don't think we need to convince people too much. But if you come in, guys, let us know. I would love for you to get in touch with us and let us know if just via the power of this podcast, you've gone out and bought a ticket. And Jo, I do wish you guys the best of luck for that weekend, because you've had a torrid year and you deserve a bit of success. So genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, everybody that's involved with the festival, I wish you the best of luck. Where can people, obviously you mentioned the website, which is shrewsburyfolkfestival.co.uk, but where can people find you guys on social media?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook at Shrewsbury Folk Festival, Twitter at Shrewsbury Folk, and Instagram at Shrewsbury Folk Festival as well. So everything you need to know, have a look through those feeds. I think it gives you a really good idea of who we are and what we're about. And yeah, we'd love to see you there.
Is there a hashtag for people to attach to their pictures and stuff if they go?
It kind of differs, but a lot of people use Shrewsfolk or Shrewsbury Folk or Shrewsbury Folk Festival. But yeah, we'll find you. Just give us a tag and look forward to seeing all your posts.
Amazing. Great. I'm excited. Right, before we go, because I know we said half an hour, it's like, we're on 40 minutes. Oh, what are you doing? We had a great conversation. That's what it is. I need to tell you guys, obviously, about Pod Aid. Pod Aid is a great charity event that we're doing in September. On 9 a.m. on the 29th of September, we'll be going live for a 24-hour long podcast. We're not going to stop until 9 a.m. on the 30th of September. We're doing this in order to raise money for Lincoln Davis. I'm bringing up the images if you guys can see it, but you can't. We're raising money for Lincoln Davis, and we've got our sponsors with Reach. They're doing our marketing, our social media. They designed our logos. They're doing an amazing job. We've got a venue thanks to Shrewsbury Town community. We're using their Reach Community Hub. We're going to be there for 24 hours. It's going to be amazing. And we've got an amazing lineup, and a huge, amazing lineup. And we're just going to keep bringing you guest after guest after guest after guest. It's going to be amazing. So make sure you follow Podbean on social media. So there is a Pod Aid Facebook page, a Pod Aid Instagram page, and we're on LinkedIn as well. So please show us some support. It's going to be a great event. And yeah, that's Jo. Thank you so much for joining us. Genuinely, thank you so much. And we will catch you guys next time. Peace out, guys.